PowerPoint presentation. Oplan Bantaylaya is by far the bloodiest and most brutal counterinsurgency campaign unleashed on the Filipino people by any Philippine president. Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo fosters a reign of terror and climate of impunity that encourage even her warlord minions to massacre scores of men and women, including journalists, broadcasters, and 2 women lawyers in a gruesome carnage in Ampatuan, Maguindanao last November 23. President Arroyo's Oplan Bantaylaya, or OBL, criminality is unparalleled as it lumps together as targets 1. The armed revolutionary movement, 2. The legal democratic organizations which have been historically in the forefront of the protest movement in the country, 3. Media, and last, the political opposition. OBL's murderous attacks are done with impunity. Its victims and their families continue to be denied justice. The almost 9 years of the US-backed Arroyo government is characterized by the use of military for political repression coupled with deception to cover up the gross human rights violations committed against the Filipino people. The years 2009 and 20 and politically marginalized sectors. The defiant people will always be encouraged and bolstered by the strong public outcry here and abroad against the militarists and human rights violators. Under GMA's presidency, from January 21, 2001 to October 31, 2009, there are a documented total of 1,118 victims of extrajudicial killings and 204 who are still missing. With the addition of the 57 victims of the Ampatuan massacre, the 2009 latest extrajudicial killings total has surpassed all those in all the years of GMA's rule, except in 2005 and 2006. So you can see from our graph the totals that we had yearly from 2001 up to this year. State terrorism intensifies under Oplan Bantaylaya. Human rights violations in 2009 are numerous and varied, and no sector or society is exempted. The following are a few of the specific cases in 2009 which were reported to Karapatan. First, this is the first in post-martial law era, the killing of a Roman Catholic priest for the first time under Arroyo. After Marcos, a Catholic priest was killed. Father Cecilio Lucero, 48 years old, was assassinated in the morning of September 6, 2009. He was ambushed in San Jose, Northern Samar, allegedly by 5 men wearing ski masks and carrying long firearms. Father Lucero had taken up the cudgels for victims of military abuses in the province. Whenever there were reports of human rights violations, he would rush to the abusive soldiers' camp or the 803rd Infantry Brigade of the Philippine Army camp in Karapatan and confront the commanding officer. A young Phil-American abducted and tortured, Melissa Rojas, 30 years old, was in La Paz, Tarlac conducting a survey for future medical missions when she, along with 2 others, was abducted on May 19 by unidentified armed men believed to be members of the military. Rojas was handcuffed, blindfolded throughout her activity. She was beaten up, threatened, and was being forced to sign a document and to admit that she was a New People's Army member, which she refused to do. After 7 days of torture and interrogation, Rojas was surfaced. She was warned that she and her relatives should not talk to human rights workers from Karapatan. Judge Advocate General's office lawyers argued that her abduction was stage managed, her injuries were self-inflicted, and that she was an NPA member who was kidnapped by the New People's Army themselves. A most gruesome and contemptible case of summary execution was that of Rebelling Pipao, daughter of NPA leader Leoncio Pipao, popularly known as Commander Parago in the Davao provinces. There is strong indication that Rebelling was abducted, tortured, and killed by the military on March 5 in Davao del Norte in retaliation and as punishment for her father's revolutionary zeal and successes. Her body, with 5 stab wounds, was found in the river. Her mouth was covered with packing tape. Her pants partially pulled down. There were lacerations around her genital area, which could have been caused by insertion of a hard object. Rebelling, 20 years old, was such a picture who did not belong to any activist organization. She might have shared the same ideas and dreams with her father, but she chose to pursue them by teaching children. On September 17, house helpers of national artist and Ramon Magsaysay awardee Professor Bienvenido Lumbera alerted the security units in their subdivision about an unidentified man who was taking photos of Lumbera's house. The intruder turned out to be Naval Corporal Hannibal Montido Guerrero, and the Philippine Navy confirmed that he is a member of the Philippine Marines and that he was undergoing surveillance training under the Naval Intelligence Security Force. Weeks before the incident, Professor Lumbera was one of the artists who protested against Malacanang's intervention in the selection of national artists. On May 6, Charito Caspillo, who was 3 months pregnant, was hit on her right thigh and had a miscarriage after a strafing incident perpetrated by soldiers believed to belong to the 47th Infantry Battalion of the Philippine Army based in Hamindan, Capiz. The soldiers delayed bringing her to a hospital so that Caspillo died on May 14 at the Capiz Memorial Provincial Hospital. Wilma Ambil, 19 years old and 7 months pregnant, was killed on September 20 when an OB-10 plane and 2 helicopters bombed an area where Muslims pray in Mindanao, Sulu. Also in Mindanao, the child Halima Bansil, 11 years old, was killed when members of Task Force Tugis under the 6th Infantry Division of the Philippine Army strafed her family's house on July 12 at around 2 in the morning. Halima, her parents, and 2 brothers were asleep when a series of gunfire woke them up. Mrs. Bansil covered her youngest child with her body. When the gunfire ceased, Halima's mother went to check on her 2 children, and she found Halima already dead. 2 activist doctors were assassinated by masked armed men in separate incidents in Davao City and northern Samar. Dr. Rogelio Piñera, 45 years old, was a medical specialist, member of the Alliance of Health Workers in Davao City, and a regional executive committee member of Bayan Southern Mindanao. On June 24, 4 armed motorcycle riding men in jackets and ski masks sped up to Dr. Piñera's moving car and started shooting. The doctor sustained gunshot wounds on the neck and in 9 other parts of his body which caused his death. Dr. Bartolome Resuello, 62 years old, was killed in Pambuhan, northern Samar, by men wearing ski masks and carrying M16 rifles and .45 caliber pistols.